Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks show. I'm coming to you live from Barbados. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Barbados. Don't mind all of that about Beryl. She's long gone, and the place is beautiful. It's a beautiful sunshine. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous here in Barbados. Getting hot again. Still a little overcast, but it's still beautiful. And we are so grateful to God that we did not have to suffer too much from Beryl. Of course, we are very, very sad about our neighbors, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And there's Grenada, there's Carriacou, Jamaica, and all the other islands that have suffered so much from Hurricane Beryl. We are grateful. Our fishing industry took a beating. I have to say, real devastation with our fishing industry, and we're hoping that. Things will turn around. Our fishermen, they're saying in another year or so before they could really catch themselves. So all the islands have suffered one way or the other. And we are here alive. Last week, Friday, we were waiting on Beryl. We can look now, it's in the past, you're right? It's gone. It's in the past, and we're looking straight ahead. How are you doing this evening? It's good to see you. Good to know you've joined us. And there are people who have been waiting. And on the show, Junie Rock was the first to join at 5:21 today, and she's waiting on the show. Junie, I'm hoping that you had a beautiful day. As I said earlier, we have so much to be thankful for. We are alive. We have roofs over our head. There are lots of people in other Caribbean countries, and they don't have any roof. They're looking up in the sky, and they're figuring, how am I going to get my roof up? I was speaking to someone in Barbados who had a house in Carriacou, and she said to me, Marcia, that's a house been there for how many years? 40 something years, and it's gone. It's a family home, completely gone. And she's here in Barbados just looking at the pictures of that house. Can you imagine that? And there were people living in the house. And she's trying to imagine, how did they survive that? We are grateful that I think it's at this moment, it's still probably about 9 persons have died. That so we are grateful. We are very, very grateful. We have so much to be thankful for. Really, a lot to be thankful for. Bajan boy, good evening. How are you? Good evening, loyal opposition. So many things going on in this country. You are so correct. It's me. Good evening. No, it's me. Says not a word from. Well, that's not quite true. The prime minister just had a press conference, and we're going to look at that a little bit. Not look at the press conference, so we're going to examine what the proposals are for the increase in crime in this country. There's so many of our young people are involved in many criminal activities in this country, and since last week, Sunday, to today, we've had about I think it's 5 or 4 more murders that we've had. And last night we had Queen Bee, 2 young ladies stabbing up each other in KFC. It is a real sad situation for youth. Mystic Angel, hi Marcia. So I agree with Bajan boy. Yes, it's a lot of things happening in Barbados. It's just crazy. Mildred, Ben, you, Celine King, Rameem, good evening, good evening. Marcia, good evening. Fabian Yard, how are you? Definition Sobers, Diana Husbands, Judy Jilks. Hi Judy, how are you? Liana Bell, good evening. Wayne Mac Austin. Folks, as you are joining, I'm going to ask you to like and to share. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest coming to you. We've had Pigeon Odowengu from Kenya. But tonight we have another Kenyan with us. Would you believe that? And he's Dr. Nathan Wangusi, and he's going to be joining us in a couple minutes. And I'm going to ask you to share. Don't wait for him to start and then you get so caught up in what he's saying that you forget to share. So I'm going to ask you to start sharing now. Start sharing now, Ramin. Yes, Ramin, it's always good to give thanks. Edwin Price, good evening. How are the children doing? How is the family? FX Trading BB. Good night, loyal opposition. He says, sons and daughters are blessed we are to be here in fellowship. Yes. Emerson Bob, how are you? Are you excited about this evening? We have a great evening lined up for you. We have our guest from Kenya, and we also have a guest from Uganda. You believe that? All across Africa. Anika Hope, good evening. Loyal Daughter 66, good evening. Galviz. Hey, Galviz, how are you? Marion Griffith, hi. Are we sharing? Are we liking and sharing? Beverly. Hey, Beverly, I see you watching from Facebook. Beverly, do us a big favor and share and like on Facebook. Please share it in your WhatsApp groups and just share and just share and share. We have a lot to unpack tonight. We have a lot going on. There's a lot of education that's going to happen tonight. I am telling you. There's a lot of inspiration that's going to happen tonight. There's a lot of mobilization that's going to happen tonight. Yes, and I tell you, it's important. We can't keep all of this information to ourselves. Come on. We have to share. So like and share, okay? Very, very important. Adrian Worrell, good night. Born again, how are you? Born again, I love it. Hello, good night, Denise Moore. Hi, Denise Moore. Folks, make sure you're saying, Nigel Newton, good to see Nigel. Nigel, you're in for a treat tonight. We are coming to you from Kenya, and we are coming to you from Uganda tonight. Let me tell you, it is power-packed tonight. With the Africa and the diaspora, we're coming together, and we're finding out our true identity, who we are. And it's happening right here on the Marcia Week Show tonight. So I'm asking you to like and to share. Like and share, everybody. Well, you know what we do. We are going to go right into our national anthem. And this, without the anthem, what's the point? It's all about Barbados. It's about us standing up for Barbados. It's about the 260 something thousand people in Barbados standing up and deciding that they are going to be the opposition in this country, that they are going to open their mouths and they're going to speak up. And that's what it's all about. And what empowers us to speak up, Nigel? What empowers us to speak up? It's this national anthem. It is what we stand by. It is our code of ethics. It's everything for us. All right. So let's play our national anthem.
Oh
people's guide for past 300 years, with him still on the people's side. We have no doubts or fears. Barbados, I know you're seeing all that is happening. You see our young people killing each other. Huh? In the space of what, 5 days, we had 4 murders of young men killing each other in this country. Yesterday, 2 young women inside Kentucky, and they are fighting and stabbing up each other. Young people, teenagers, our Gen Zs in Barbados, they're killing each other. Our millennials are killing each other. And sometimes we wonder, will things ever change? We watch videos, Barbados. We watch videos of police raid or young men lay down on the floor with police with big guns over them. Is that what we want for our country? Is that what we want for our young people? Is that all there is for Barbados? Is that all there is to our young people? It is sad to see it. It is sad to see it, Barbados. We are more than that, you know. We are more than that. That's not our DNA. That's not the stock we are made of. And it's going to require every one of us rolling up our sleeves and become strict guardians of our heritage, because it's not our heritage. What is wrong, Barbados? What is ailing us? What is hurting us? What's happening to us? Where is our soul? What's going on, Barbados? Huh? What is it? In 1 week, we've had so many disasters, so many things happening. We had Hurricane Beryl. A few days later, someone sent me a video. The crane was burning. There was a fire at the crane, one of the most luxurious hotels in Barbados. I'm like, wow, what is it? We can't catch a break? Robberies. Every day there is something. Stabbings, shootings. That is not us. That is not us. That is not us. That is not us. And tonight, when you hear from Dr. Nathan Wangusu, you're going to realize that that is not our ancestors. That's not who we are. You're going to hear about young people in other countries and what they're concerned about, what they're fighting for. They're not fighting each other. They're not taking a gun and killing each other. But here on this side of it in the Caribbean, that's what we're doing. And there are many reasons. There are many causes. We're going to look at that tonight. So tonight we do have a guest that's going to come, Dr. Nathan Wangusi, and I need you to share. I need you to share. I need you to share, guys, because it's going to be very powerful tonight. And we have Sherura is going to be with us from Uganda. We're also hoping to have a young man who was in a life of crime and has turned his life around. His life is completely turned around, and now he's helping other young men. We're hoping that he will be able to join. He's going to do his best to join us tonight. because we've got to have a conversation about this. And then after the conversation, let's see what we can pick out from what he's saying to us and how we can help ourselves. Yes? We're in a time of crisis. This is crisis time. Please share. Please share. Okay. So tonight we have with us Dr. Wangusi. He is an environmental and social justice organizer based in Washington, D.C., born in Kenya though, but he's now based in Washington, D.C., and who has been supporting the new Saba Saba movement protest among the Kenyan diaspora. And he's going to tell us what the Saba Saba movement is. He is a former aspirant for the parliamentary seat for the Langata constituency and continues to work with grassroots organizations advocating for social change both in Kenya and the Black diaspora. Tonight we have Dr. Wangusi, and he's actually in Barbados. And we had the privilege through Lumumba Batson to connect with him, and he is going to join us at this moment. Let's just welcome Dr. Wangusi. Welcome and good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. I bring you greetings of fraternity and brotherhood from the homeland. As the host said, I am from Kenya. I was born and raised in Nairobi, and ended up in the United States of America for my education. Went back home and lived for about a decade, and ended up running for the parliamentary seat in my local constituency, where I spent a lot of time organizing around issue-based politics. One of the major issues that we face in our country is a land misappropriation by both government, but also by government officials. We had an incident in 2016 where a very powerful government official, who I'll speak about later, grabbed a school playground. And then during that, a popular revolt by the young kids at that playground, and at this time it was a very small scale protest known as Occupy Playground, broke out. This is 9 years.
No, I know you're going really fast. And when I heard, listen, Barbados, I needed to listen carefully. And if you slow down, because we're getting accustomed to the accent as you are getting accustomed to our accent here in Barbados. Before you start to tell us about Occupy Playground, I want you to just tell me how long have you been in Barbados?
So I ended up here accidentally, actually. My a very good friend was celebrating a birthday this week, and we were supposed to come contingent, but the hurricane pretty much had me marooned on this. So I decided to make the best out of this week. I met some social activists, and they've told me about the work that they're doing. So I decided, hey, let me share my experiences, share the lessons that we've learned from the Kenyan experience, but also reach out to a broader Barbadian brotherhood and diaspora.
And you've been in Barbados. Where have you been so far?
Well, a good friend has taken me around. I've seen Freedom Square, I think it is. I've seen Parliament. I've gone over to the pier, to the industrial area, to the fish markets. Amazing food.
I figure you went to Oystins. You went to Oystins?
Yes, to Oystins Market. I'm a big fan of fish.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so you enjoyed it. What kind? Do you remember the kind of fish you bought?
Marlin fish.
You had marlin, and you had that before. Did you have that before? It
was my first time, so it was very delicious.
And you enjoyed it?
Absolutely.
Wow. That's Oystins for you. We try to make sure that all of our guests go to Oystins, And those
Mhm.
of you who are watching, and if you haven't been to Barbados, when you come, when you come, because I know you're going to come to Barbados, you have to go to Oystins. And you see, he said he loved Marlin. He enjoyed it, and you had a time to interact with the people of Barbados. What are your impressions?
So my impressions are that Barbadians are very easygoing, but also very kind. I haven't had any incident since I entered, and granted, maybe because I'm from Kenya, I know even in terms of bilateral relations between Kenya and Barbados, those relationships are very warm. However, it's quite far, so many Kenyans do not know that, for example, travel to Barbados is visa free for at least,
Mm.
I think, so I will definitely be making my way back here. I've never felt so at home in any North American or let's say American or Caribbean country. So Barbados is definitely a go-to destination, should be a go-to destination for Kenyans. I think there should be more cultural exchange. I've already started to speak to you about opportunities for us to even teach Barbadians their own language, their original African languages.
Wow.
Yes, so amazing place, and I'll definitely be coming back.
Okay, wow. Did you hear that, Barbadians? And just let me make sure that you can hear him properly, guys. Yes, make sure to let me know if you're hearing us clearly. That is wonderful. I'm very, very happy. And now you're going to talk to us about something called occupy playground. Now that might sound a little weird because we heard all along over the last week and a half about occupy parliament, where the protesters went and they decided that they were going to occupy parliament, right? They were going to protest there, they're not going to move. So is that the concept? So when you hear occupy playground, what is it that we're talking about here?
Yes. So this idea of occupying, came out of a series of protests in the early parts of the 2010s,
Yeah.
where free citizens wanted to occupy places of physical locations of power. So in our case, it just so happened that there was a school playground that misappropriated, grabbed basically. So a very powerful government official at the time decided that he wanted to extend his car park into a school playground. So you can imagine how egregious that would be for a public school to lose, 1.5 acres where the kids go to play during recess and during their breaks. And this is a
Ah, so it was a school, and like we have in Barbados here, viewers, we normally have a playground attached to the school. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a regular thing. And here we have a picture of the kids here on the screen, and and some public official decide that they're going to just take the playground, and what were they going to create on the playground?
So it's not clear. It's still not clear what this individual wanted to do, but the adjacent property was actually public land. It was a airport land because this school it's an urban school, a very old public school which has couple thousand kids, small mid-sized playground. Kenya is a much larger country, and then it was attached or abutted into another public piece of land for the airport. So this individual grabbed the small airport property and put a private hotel, which actually stands to date. The name of that hotel is Western Hotel.
Hmm.
So as they expanding it, they looked around, and the only direction they could expand, I think, the hotel, maybe some amenities on the hotel, maybe the parking lot, was into the public school. So what happened over the school holidays when the kids were not there? This individual basically walled off the school, the playground. So when the kids came back to school, they found that their playground, on their first day of school, they find that their playground has been grabbed.
So
So very
Nathan, Dr. Nathan, let me stop you there. So,
yeah.
how old were these children? So the children, it's like now they're going off to they're going on vacation, and they came back and found that there was a wall around their
Mhm.
playground, and they could not use the playground to play football or to do anything else. And yeah, and so tell me, what did these children do?
Yeah, so these are primary school going kids. So these are,
Yes, I was asking about the age of the children. So primary, so what
yeah,
age?
as you see in the pictures, these are, 13, 12, 13, 10-year olds, kids, very young kids, who then, as you see from the pictures, decided that they were going to protest. So I think there had been word about the grabbing because it was done relatively quickly. So the parents, the teachers, and the students quickly organized. Now, I want to say this very quickly, just so that you get some context here. We are very different generations in Kenya, and I think it's this kind of generation naming based on the decade or period when we were born have very unique characteristics. So we have the baby boomers who are from the 60s and 70s post-colonial. So it's the same in Barbados. Then we have the millennials like myself who are born and came of age in the early part of the millennium. Then we have the Gen X's who are slightly older, and then the Gen Z's who are these kids, so who are now in their late teens into their early 20s. These were born in the new millennium, so that's why they're called the Gen Z's. And the
Mhm.
characteristics are very different. So our millennials will be very subservient because they came up in a colonial, post-colonial system. Not the but the baby boomers will be very subservient. So my parents' generation. Then our generation were better educated. Our Gen Zs are very exposed, right? So the characteristics are very different in how they respond. And to our amazement, this group of kids challenged the status quo. They stood up against the riot police who had been sent with tear gas, with guns, with dogs to scare them off. And I think the person who was involved in this grab didn't realize that he was dealing with lions, young lions, not.
Wow. I have a video of it, and I want to show Barbadians because this is interesting. We're talking here, guys, of young children, probably from about 6 years old in Barbados. At primary school, I think you start at about 6 years old.
six
Yes?
or 7 years, similar
six to
British system.
7 years old, and probably up until about 12,
12,
11.
yeah, 12, 13, 14. The oldest would have been about 14.
The oldest about 14, so between 6 or 7 to 14, okay, in their country. And here it is that they're about to take their playground. So as they're doing in Barbados, we're seeing development all over. They're taking over our beach spaces, all of our wetlands. They are just taking over our spaces in Barbados that we want to use for fun. We're now being told they're going to put up hotels, and these children said absolutely not. They
Yeah.
decided to protest, and their protest was called Occupy Playground. You all realizing this thing? Look at their little faces. Occupy Playground. This is Kenya. Now, there's a reason Dr. Nathan Wangusi is telling you the story. But let's just watch it. Let me see if I can get this up for you to watch via video. Okay. So you just get a little sense, right, of this entire thing.
It was the first day of school for students in public schools across the country. After several delays occasioned by the teachers' strike, eager students arrived bright and early. ready to tackle a new school year. But this was no ordinary school day, at least not at Langata Primary School. Just meters from the gate stood policemen in full anti-riot gear. News had circulated that activists had planned to stage a demonstration protesting the alleged grabbing of the children's playground by a private developer. Policemen arrived early to ensure no such thing happened. Officers posted at the school gate had the responsibility of ensuring that nobody except parents and students were allowed in, and only parents could come back out. But come 9 a.m., this state of affairs would change. Students from the school would band together, singing and chanting and holding placards condemning the grabbing of the field. Together and in the company of a group of activists, they would march out of the school toward the gate to the field in contention, fenced off in December while they were out of school. And here they would work together, banging on the gate and trying to push it out of the way. But just before it caved in, police officers jumped out of the gate, lobbing tear gas canisters at the children and causing a stampede as children ran blindly in every direction in search of a safe hiding place. Two students were injured in the stampede. The rest would run back to the school. They decided to approach the problem from a different angle. From inside the school, they pushed against and poked at the wall with all manner of objects until it came tumbling down. And with the barrier to the field out of the way, they poured into the plot of land they claimed as theirs. But their joy would be short-lived. Police officers stormed the field, lobbing more tear gas canisters, and a confrontation ensued, pitting the police officers against the school children and the activists.
Leave me alone!
3 more children were injured, and a total of 5 people were arrested.
You can arrest me but not beat me! You don't have a right to beat me!
One police officer who sustained injuries was led away, and his firearm was taken away by his colleagues. Police officers maintained that they were simply doing their job.
This is a disputed land, and it is one of the police functions to ensure that life and property is safeguarded.
Parents would later arrive to collect their children from the school, while the injured pupils were taken to Langata Hospital for treatment. Pupils who took part in the demonstration now left with haunting memories of the day the children's playground turned into a battlefield. Wilkisanyabwa Monday Special.
January 2015 was a pivotal moment in Kenyan history when riot police were unleashed on children at Langata Road Primary School in Nairobi, Kenya. They were protesting the grabbing of their playground by the then Vice President William Ruto in a protest known as Occupy Playground. In a meeting, a permanent secretary in his government expressed sympathy for the injured kids. My response was that I sympathize with the government because these are lions, not lambs, empowered and fearless. This generation of kids, now adults, are now leading the Occupy Parliament movement to retake sovereign power for the Kenyan people. Our generation, Zion.
Wow.
Wow,
That is,
it's powerful.
it is really very, very powerful. Now, what do you, I mean, these children, I don't even know what to say. Now, what do you say to someone, or someone is actually saying, why did the parents get the children involved in a protest? Now, I must tell people that you were one of those adults, that you were there, and I saw you in the video. You were lifting up a little child. Was it a little girl or boy you had in your hand?
It was a little girl who I remained very close to. Now, the nature of these protests in Kenya is that they are very spontaneous. So, nobody was imagining, not in our wildest dreams. And this is somewhat related to also the fact that we understand our constitution, which I carry with me all the time. And the preamble of our constitution says
But
also.
before you go, oh well, I guess you're answering the question because somebody
Yeah,
wanted to know: Did
why?
the is it that the parents put the children up to this?
No, no. So what I'm
Ah,
trying
I see.
we would never imagine, for instance, that the police would tear gas children. That has never happened, not in Kenya before and not anywhere before. And in the Occupy Parliament protest, nobody imagined that the state would shoot to kill Generation Z protesters. You don't go as an adult with that mindset. You don't imagine that there's that level of depravity that
Ah, so that's
and
why you were answering me about this. So you're trying to explain the
yeah.
psyche of Kenyans. Can you explain that? Why would little children feel that they could stand up to this developer who wanted to take their playground from them? What? Because I can't see that happening here in Barbados. Children are to be
And
seen and not heard. Children would never be involved in a protest in this side of the world. What is so different?
let me just disclose this. I think just so that the viewers have an understanding of, in fact, the gravity of this confrontation. The developer was actually the then Vice President William Ruto. That's the allegation, because he's the one
Hold a
who
minute.
owns.
So William Ruto was the developer. Did you all hear that, folks? This was 20, is this 2015?
So the hotel is his. So the
The
allegation.
hotel. So William Ruto, the developer was the vice president of Kenya, William
Mhm.
Ruto. He was taking this land from the children. Do you understand what's going on here? Go,
Exactly.
continue, sir. Continue.
Yeah, and we would never in our even I was not an organizer. I lived very close to the school, so we would never in our wildest imagination think that a person would actually first grab a kid's playground, then second attack them using state instruments of security and power. So when the kids were going out to protest, which is their, our constitution says that we have a right to protest, picket, and petition government, and that includes everyone from that is born, lives, and enjoys Kenyan citizenship. Doesn't distinguish between the age. So there are many instances where children are allowed to protest. Like the climate protests that go on in Europe. Those are kids who come out and speak forcefully about issues that are important to them. So no one imagined that that kind of depravity existed. So their participation in the protest was supposed to be secured by the police. The police are supposed to be there to protect the protesters, not to confront them. It was not a riot. There was no danger to human life,
Ah,
property. So the job of the police constitutionally is to protect protesters when they protest, including if they're kids or old people, whatever their issue is. So these children legitimately wanted to protest the grabbing of their playground. And instead of getting the protection of the state, they were confronted and attacked by the state, because the person who was driving this, um, that's the character of the person. Then 10 years later, I've made the point that on one hand, we look at this and say, the kids were, they were innocent. But if you look at that video very carefully, and I remember I've made the point that I actually told certain very powerful government officials that you need to be very careful with this generation, because these are lions, not lambs. They know their rights. They're brave. They're very courageous. So the school had about, a subset, 1,000 kids from different neighborhoods in that part of the city. It's a good subset to tell you what is really going on in the minds of the children and how they're being educated and being empowered. So the actions by the children showed not so much the decisions by the parents, but individual decisions by these kids who understood fundamentally that they had a right to their playground and to education and to space and to recreation. You don't understand what they were saying, but they were saying it is our right. Haki yetu means this is our right as children.
Wow, so that's what the children were saying when they were chanting, it is our right.
Haki yetu, our right. It is our right to play.
But tell me something, because it is interesting, because these children, that was 2015, so we're talking about 10 years later now.
This is the same generation at a larger scale. And as I said, I remember very specifically talking to a permanent secretary in Kenya, and I told him, we have to be careful with this generation, because if we don't give them first opportunities, we don't open discourse. I told him within a decade, there's going to be a revolt in this country. And he brushed it aside and said, these are what we call Cerelac babies, like softies. And in fact, when the Occupy Parliament movement started, parliamentarians, these are, ministers in the government came out saying, oh, these are kids that were born on Cerelac, they are softies, they know Uber and KFC, and they're going to go to the protest with their Ubers, and then, from there, take bottled water and go off to KFC and go home. And, it's a cautionary tale to people who are in power, that as we educate our young people, we need to make sure that we are also creating opportunities, but also opening public participation and public space for them to voice their opinions. Because when you start to compress or to silence dissent, I gather in Barbados from my few days here, that we don't even have an official opposition. It means you don't have that escape valve where people can actually express their opposition to government policies. I picked up the newspaper yesterday and I saw something about the cyber crime bill, and you're not allowing people to give their opinions. I also looked at your constitution. It's supposed to be a progressive constitution that gives us freedom of conscience, freedom of opinion and association. And this kind of bills passing through parliament without any sort of interrogation, it's unacceptable.
I'm listening to you, and it is a joy hearing you, because there is such a freedom as you speak, and I'm listening to you and thinking about the children at the same time, and to know that you were actually right there among the children, because that's the town that you grew up in. Now, you said something to me last night. When you were talking to me about this, and I was almost in tears. You said that you grew up not even being afraid of lions. Now, think about it, Barbadians. All of us, we know that lions are animals that we're supposed to be afraid of. Speak the truth. Everybody believes that. And I was talking to Dr. Wangusi about it, because I'm trying to understand, where would these children get this kind of courage? Because I started, you see them, the Gen Zs, and they're occupying parliament. And then you show me this video with the little children occupying the playground at 6 years old, 7 years old, pushing down a wall. Did you all see those kids pushing down the wall? You told me last night that the children pushed down the wall. And Dave and I both said, you mean they pushed down the wall? We didn't really believe you until we saw it on the video, that they actually push down the wall, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so many of them. There are lots of those other kids, and they started pushing on it, and then it fell down, and the walls fell down, and those other kids went and started playing because they got back their playground, right?
And by
And
the way,
yes,
government was supposed to do a full apology to the kids. The ministers for state were sent there to apologize to them. The school playground was fenced off. A title was produced for them. A big signboard was put that this land belongs to Langata Road Primary School. And there were various cases filed in court. It also mushroomed into something else where we realized across the country this was happening. School playgrounds were being taken over by developers. So there was a big audit that went on where they looked at school playgrounds and worked on giving them title
wow.
and private
So
development.
something came out of it. These children standing up, being tear gassed, that you see they stood up for something. But then I'm going somewhere with this. So I was saying Rose and Fabian and Hurricane Writer. I'm trying to figure out what they're giving these children in Kenya. I'm seeing 6, 7-year-olds doing this. Now I'm looking on my TV and I'm seeing on YouTube, I'm seeing young people that I would normally see in their phones, and you have to pull them to do anything. They're out
Mhm.
on the street and they are protesting about a finance bill. I'm thinking, what do you know about a finance bill? Why should they care? And why are they running towards the bullet? What's going on? And you said to me that in Kenya, lions are not feared.
Mhm.
Can you explain that to me? Because as somebody, us, the children of Africa that have come so far away from Africa, we are afraid of every wild animal, especially lions. And you talk to me about where the lions live in comparison to where humans live in Kenya. Talk to me.
Yeah, so I think let me preamble by saying that fear is learned. It's a learned emotion, right? You're told to be scared of something, be concerned that it'll affect you either physically, it can harm you, it'll eat you. We are taught to fear things that we don't know, things that we
Yes.
think are scary, right? So this idea of like lions, for instance, being predatorial and being dangerous animals to human beings, it's a creation of Hollywood. Or I would even talk about, for instance, gorillas. A gorilla is actually a vegetarian. They eat only vegetables, right? Twigs and bamboo and leaves and things like that. But we are taught to believe that these things can actually eat you. So if you went to visit the Virunga National Park and sit
It's
with them,
true.
they're the most peaceful animals. And so are lions, by the way. Nairobi is the only city in the world. It's one of
You
the only
said
cities.
lions are peaceful?
Very peaceful, very peaceful. Lions
Yeah.
also do not predate on human beings. The only time a lion becomes dangerous is if it's cornered, if it's injured, if it's old, or if it has children, if it has cubs, right? And it feels that it needs to protect those. But there are many instances. We have a city of 5 million people right next to a national park with prides of lions. And in the history of Nairobi, I do not know of one case of a lion attacking someone, although there have been many instances where we've actually seen lions in our communities. They don't naturally predate human beings. If you go to, for instance, a safari in the Masai Mara or Amboseli or Serengeti, if you go to a safari in any of those locations, have you ever heard of a tourist being picked out of a car? It never happens because they don't predate on us. So lions are very opportunistic, but they're very specific hunters. And so is the case with leopards and cheetahs and all these other animals that we think are very dangerous. So that fear is learned.
So you are saying that that lions. You said last night to me that sometimes you get up and you see the paws of lions where you all live in your community. So that means the
Yeah,
lions were there.
yeah, they come at night. They're very shy. They don't like to interact in any way with human beings. Because, by the way, lions actually fear human beings because we are the apex predator. We are an apex predator to them. But we don't have any instances of lion predation on human beings because we simply are not in their diet. And then we, in many African communities, by the way, particularly in East Africa, wildlife is revered as, totems or mascots, as, would the with cows, for both cultural and religious reasons. So we also don't hunt them. So there's no conflict between me and the lions that live in the national park. I have no reason to go near them, and they have no reason to come after me. So all that fear that is kind of sold to us, and I think we were talking about this in the context of why are the children in Kenya so bold in that
Yes.
respect? From when they're young, they should fit in how they're responding to government intrusion, but also now the same generation reacting to a punitive financial act, very fearlessly. And I think the big difference I would point out to is just the fear of the government, or the lack of knowledge about how what government is doing affects us. All that is learned. It's learned behavior. It's conditioned behavior. And the rich and powerful will do that so that they can control the masses. In an island as small as this with 300,000 people, 200 years ago, you had to first enslave someone's mind before you enslave their body. And then you can control everything about how they think, they behave, and control pretty much their destiny. And that's what did not
Somebody's
happen.
saying here that they didn't know that lions were shy. They never knew that. What about the lionesses? And what about the lionesses?
So under certain circumstances, I mean, you're not going to go and start pulling a lion's tail and think everything is going to go well, But if I guarantee you, and I actually want to ask the viewers to go on YouTube and Google motorbike guy passing by lion. There's a video that's gone viral in recent times that's on YouTube. And I have seen this myself. Lions will be seated 100 meters away from you. They will not charge. They won't even pursue. If you look at any video today, open any video on YouTube where you have tourists in open vans looking at lions. They'll come. They're curious. They want to know. They'll smell the cars, but they don't predate. They don't attack. Not that they can't jump in. It's just lions don't behave that way. That
Wow.
all the
I know you're
aggressive.
telling me, and I'm trying to put it in my head, and I think everybody who's listening are trying to get it in their head. So you
It's
also said, and I think
yeah.
it's important because that is what is going to help us to understand the children and even the Gen Z and the way they are responding to Ruto right now in Kenya. You said that there you don't the parks, right? You don't have fencing.
You don't need fencing. Why do you fence? Why? What is the fencing for? As I've said, and if you just go back to, yeah, I think that's the video I'm talking about. Exactly. That's the video I'm talking about. You don't see them predating.
Hold a minute.
Right?
This is like a regular person passing through the park.
Yeah, so the way in Kenya, the way many national parks actually in Africa, in Kenya certainly this is the case. They're what they call conservancies. They're not national parks. So conservancies are places where humans and wildlife live together. So some sections will have only wildlife, some sections will have humans, and the humans have a responsibility to take care of, certain aspects of the national park, making sure there's no trash and this is not uncommon. You don't see the lion getting either startled or reacting adversely to a human being passing by. That is not uncommon.
Wow. No
So
wonder, no wonder, because that means you're not harboring all of this fear that we have, and our fear has come through colonization. It's come through really what the white man told us about the animals, because they were hunting the animals and the animals were charging at them. So then they taught us, our white colonizers taught us to be afraid of the animals, but you grew up not being afraid of these animals.
No, there's no reason, because none of these animals predate on human beings. And one of the things I think I told you yesterday as well is that as I said, wildlife is revered. Kenya is one of the only countries in the world where we protect our lions and wildlife with guns. Our park rangers are very heavily armed, but nobody protects buildings with guns. We could protect our buildings with batons. So we understand that that's that's our heritage. These are our citizen wildlife, as we call them. Many of them have names. So, for example, one of the lions that lives close to our subdivision at home is called Queen McKenna. It's just a way to humanize them. And if you just think
Queen
closely,
McKenna. So you have named, you even named your lions.
yes, ma'am. Our lions, our elephants, all of them are named.
You all hearing this thing? No
But
wonder these children are like this.
so I was going to tell the viewers, think
Yeah.
about why you think lions are dangerous. It's because you watched a Hollywood movie, right? With a crazy lion that's, chasing and eating people in villages and things like that. But that actually never happens. Lions do not predate on human beings.
Wow. I am telling you, and I want you, we are not just telling you this in a vacuum. This is not a tourism thing for Kenya. We are trying to understand our DNA and who we are as a people, and the lies that we have been told, and the amount of fear that we
Mm.
live with. And that fear, we take it towards the people in authority, and so can you talk to us about this Gen Z? 10 years later, we're
Mhm.
seeing these children, probably the same children that were pushing down that wall at 6, right? They're
Yeah.
now 15,
In,
or
in
they're
fact,
now 17, or they're now 18, and
mhm.
they are now charging towards the parliament. Is that what's happening?
That's exactly true. In fact, I can confirm that I got messages during the protest from one or two of the kids who are actually at the at Occupy playground, and they were protesting as well. They were part of the protesting group at Parliament. Now, the context is different, obviously. The context is that there's a punitive finance bill that was proposed about 2 weeks ago. It's been in the works for some time now, with the IMF involved, trying to impose very punitive taxes on everything, including bread, sanitary pads and towels, basic health care, cancer treatment, money or any sort of transactions. They were trying to meet a very aggressive $2.7 billion budget by taxing the masses. And then this generation, our young generation, obviously Kenya, has population has grown from 9 million to 50 million in the past 70 years. And they were saying, hey, we don't have jobs, we don't have we have a good education, we don't have access to opportunities in our life, and the little that we have, for instance, like digital content that we're developing, you also want to tax that. You're making it bearable for many of us. So it started online, and there were hashtags going around, Occupy Parliament, Ruto must go, and it kind of spilled over into the streets early last week. So what initially was a popular revolt on social media became a popular revolt on the streets of Kenya, and started in the capital city and then spread like a wildfire across the country.
So, Dr. Nathan, I am trying to, I'm really, because I'm listening to you from my, remember, we're on this side of the world, and we went through slavery and colonization. I know you guys went through colonization as well, but our heritage is also slavery. And
Mhm.
so we have been beaten into subjection. We have been, our education system has been colonized. And so we have received that miseducation and misinformation that has made us, we are probably the Gen X, or some of people watching maybe baby boomers, where we know
Mhm.
how to say yes massa and no massa. And even
Mhm.
if we don't say that now, we still operate with that fear
With-
within us.
mhm.
Now you said, in addition to the fact that from a child, you understand that you don't even need to fear the lion. You live with the wildlife around you.
Mhm.
You spoke to me about your education system,
Mhm.
and someone, one pigeon said to me, she said to me, Mrs. Weeks, there are set books that the children are reading. Can you talk to me about that? What kind of books would the children have as part of their education
Yeah.
that would that would cause them to get out on the street like that? What Talk to me about that, please.
So remember, one of the key pillars of slavery, whether it's this part of the world, in the Caribbean, in North America, in Latin America, was to keep the person who was being enslaved illiterate, uneducated, so that
Yes.
they didn't know how to write, they didn't know how to read, they did not know how to articulate and communicate, they did not know how to organize, they didn't know anything outside the four boundaries of the farm or the plantations where they were working, and the people who had enslaved them. Um, and it was very effective because slavery went on for several for almost 4 centuries in many parts where it was practiced. And the colonizer understood that. So you keep them in ignorance, and keep them compliant. Keep them in ignorance and keep them compliant. Um, those that were liberated, the first thing that needs to happen, you have to liberate not the body, but you have to liberate the mind, because the colonizer or the enslaver breaks, there's that process of breaking you in to understand you not have any choices, you don't have any freedoms, you don't have any control over your destiny. So if you want to take back that power, the first thing you do is you have to re-educate the mind. And
Yes.
re-educating that doesn't mean learning how to read and write. It doesn't mean that. It also means understanding what your rights and responsibilities as a citizen are. I've just been looking at the Barbadian constitution. It's not very far from the Kenyan constitution. It gives those inalienable rights to Barbadian citizens, right? It gives sovereign power to the people. It starts its preamble by stating that we assert our freedom as Barbadians. So bringing that principle and that philosophy to life means that Barbadians need to read, right? In Kenya, what has happened, as you're saying, with our educational system, and I don't even know that the powers that be, the William Rutos of this world, understood that this is what was happening in our school system after our new constitution, which is by far the most progressive, was passed in 2010. A lot of other new aspect, new things happen in the education system. So, for example, they started reading more revolutionary books like Animal Farm, which is a story about animals that were enslaved in a farm by pigs, and the pigs became oppressive. And then one day, the pigs, one day the farm animals revolted. And when you implant
So
this,
this is required reading for all of the students.
right? So while
Ah.
while
Because
English,
we sometimes we read Animal Farm, but it's only a certain section of the school, only if you're doing literature. If you're doing English,
Mhm.
right, then English literature, then you study, but everybody doesn't read, so it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a required reading because English is actually at high school level, it's required reading for every student. So every Kenyan kid who has gone through the public school system has read through or has delved into like the meanings of these books. And there are other books in Swahili and English, like the Old Parliament, right? So this is a book about like a group of a parliament that was dysfunction and oppressive to the population. So when you have a group of kids who are reading this kinds of literature coming out of the school system, they understand they understand their constitution, because the constitution is being breathed into life. You don't just you write the constitution. Not everybody gets to pick it up, right?
So you have your constitution. You travel with your constitution.
always hold on to my constitution. It's one of the most treasured books for me because it was signed by our Chief Justice at the time. But I spent time actually reading through it and trying to understand not just the words, but what is the spirit and letter of this constitution.
So did you all hear that, Barbadians? We skip over that a bit. I know I'm interrupting a bit because I want us to I'm doing it deliberately.
Okay.
So you travel with your copy of your constitution because you kept talking to me about that last night and saying that the people understand the constitution. And that's why the children were saying it's my right. And so they believe it, and you travel all the way to Barbados. Show us again the copy of your constitution. Show us your constitution again. Wow. He travels with his constitution.
I travel with my Bible and I travel with my constitution. And then it also permeates into our social consciousness through art. It permeates through social media because, statements like reject means that we have a right to exercise our constitutional rights to reject a legal proposal from government or from the executive. We are the fourth arm of government, right? You have your judiciary, you have your executive, you have your legislature, and then you have the people. You have the people. You're the fourth arm of government. So you have to do your part as well. So I think the fact that it's permeated through various mediums, as I said, you find it in the public square where people discuss about, what are my rights? Police can't just pick me up off the streets. I had this experience yesterday, and I want to talk to you to Barbadians about this, briefly. I went to, I was with a friend, and we went to a mall in town. And then as we were coming into the mall, I saw a young man being arrested. He had been stopped by, a group of very heavily armed police officers. And I understand that the crime and there's a need to control, the levels of crime in any society. But that does not give police the right to do arbitrary arrests, because that's denying someone their freedom on the basis of like a mere suspicion. And obviously, when you have a system like that, it turns into something that can be used and leveraged by government or by prejudiced people to oppress a particular, demographic. He was a young man. I even asked that person, would a person of color or a white person be stopped by these police officers and like ransacked like that? And they said even if they were smoking, illegal substances and had them in their car, they would be safe from that sort of. So your typical Kenyan would not accept an arrest without due process, and that's why part of the protest was on. And in fact, the government has done this. They've done abductions, and people would take videos. They would, there's been lawsuits, and people are pushing back because they understand that they're the fourth arm of government.
So the people understand that they are the fourth arm of government.
Yes.
The people understand they are the fourth arm of government.
Yeah.
Do you let that sink in for a moment?
Let me revise that, because when I read the Constitution, I'll tell you what it says, the preamble, and I'll read it word for word. All sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. The people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. So we are the first arm of government.
So, okay, you are the people are the first arm. Read that again. So this is the Constitution that this doctor travels with his Bible and his Constitution, and he's saying to us that the children that we see on the Gen Zs out there, they understand the Constitution, that they are the first. I said the fourth, but it's really the first arm of government. Read it for me, please.
Yeah, so the third preamble says sovereign power under this Constitution is delegated to the following state organs, right? So sovereign power, the power to govern by consent, is delegated. So I delegate my power to govern to Parliament and legislative assemblies at the county level, national executive and executive structures at the county level, the judiciary and independent tribunals. So it's actually spelled it out that we are the first arm of government, followed by parliament, our elected officials, the executive, then the judiciary. So if we clearly understand that that is our mandate, then we have a responsibility to protect our own constitutional freedoms and rights. And I would argue that applies, anywhere that you have a people who are free, like Barbados.
Wow, that is some knowledge. That is some knowledge. That's some understanding. That is that is walking in some understanding. And not, when we look at even our constitution here in Barbados, it says, basically says the same thing that you're saying.
Same thing, right? That you delegate your sovereign will to govern to these people because you want an organized society. But if they fail, in fact, the U.S. Constitution takes it further and says that if a government becomes oppressive to a people, which is the case, when we had the 1776 revolution in the U.S., but when a government becomes oppressive to a people, they have a God-given right to oppose and usurp that government. I'm not advocating here for coups and things like that, but the principle is to assert that the sovereign will of the governed comes from them. It does not come from government. So government are sovereigns, not the other way. Therefore, you're the ones who are telling them what needs to happen. You're supposed to interrogate what they think and what they do. And furthermore, it is you to make sure that they also understand this principle. And I think in Kenya that has happened progressively. When Gen Zs took this principle to the streets and said, we have a right to be heard, and our opinions on this financial bill and in matters governance in Kenya are not being heard, then we will exercise that sovereign power directly.
So, sir, you're saying to me that in addition to them knowing their constitution and reading the set books, I'm sorry, I'm processing it as well. Okay, so they're set books that they have to read in school, and they understand the constitution. Do they teach civics? Is civics something that's taught? Explain that to me. How is that taught?
Yes. So from very so Kenya still follows sort of in its most rudimentary form the British system of education, but the one of the mandatory subjects is government history, and civics. So government covers how the government is organized, the constitution, the various constitutions, how they transition from single party or from colonial rule to single party rule to multi-party democracy to our new constitution passed in 2010. So kids will from a very young age to from primary school through to high school. Maybe it'll also be continued in university depending on what subjects that you take. But you see that means that the general population understand their rights and their responsibilities, right, as citizens. What I think has happened, which was not the case before, every generation of Kenyans since independence went to school and they were taught basically the same things in school, depending on what point in history they were. But what has happened is that after 2010, this constitution was very progressive, but then there's been a lot of work in the civil society groups, in government itself, to be fair, in the education system, in the arts, in the arts and music particularly, to talk about what it means, right? That it means that we can make decisions in the following ways. If they pass legislation, we have a right to interrogate it. If they propose legislation, we have a right to participate in that process. And no one could have estimated that it would come to this, where that right would be pushed to its limit, to where young people say that we even have a right to occupy our own parliament. But this is where we are as a country, and it's a progressive position to be, but it's also one that has pushed our leaders to rethink what their responsibilities and roles as servants of the people are.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, when you look at the face of these young people, look at their faces, everybody. We see exactly what Dr. Nathan Wagunsi is saying to us, that these children grew up without fear. There is a fearlessness within these children. I wish we could just see that picture again, of this particular picture. These are young people that we were looking at a while ago. Absolutely no fear. You could just look at them, and you are there's an energy that is coming from them, and it is from they were born, right up until now, how they've been taught. They're taught civics. They understand who they are. They understand their constitution. They believe they have a right, and they walk in that. So though we are all of black skin, they look like us, but their mindset is different. It's totally different. Uh,
Yeah.
they are totally different, though they look like us. It's powerful, the thought, and thinking, because just that understanding that you are there, you do not need to be afraid of wild animals. That alone will empower you. I am telling you, that alone will let you walk like a king and a queen. And then you're learning civics, and then you understand the constitution. Yeah, and that you have delegated governance to those who are governing, and you are really the one in charge. You understand that. That's why you're going to say, I'm going to occupy my playground at 6 years old, and I'm going to occupy parliament.
My parliament.
Wow, I tell you. Somebody has a question here, because this is very, before I ask this question, someone asked, and I don't remember the name, but I wrote it down. They said, how does this improve? I think it's Everton or somebody.
Mhm.
How does this improve the life for us, Mrs. Weeks? They're asking, how does this topic improve the life for us in Barbados and the Caribbean? Am I missing something? Because they're thinking, why aren't we talking about what we're facing in Barbados and in the Caribbean? Why are we talking about this? How does this improve the life of us in Barbados? What would you say to that person, Dr. Nathan?
I'd say two things. So the first is, why does the person in power today, or the institutions in power, I gather that we have a one-party state basically in this country. Why do they want it that way? If it was not important, why not allow an official opposition in parliament? So whatever they're holding back, or whatever they're trying to protect, is valuable. That's why they do what they're doing, right? That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, your common needs and common interests are defined and brought to you by your government. So whether that's your water supply, economic opportunities for young people. I've walked around the island, and let those who have eyes see. I've seen what I've seen. There's a lot of young people who are dispossessed and disillusioned. It's very obvious to me. Outside all the glitz of a tourist destination, you can see that there's sections of the population who do not have opportunities, and those opportunities can only be brought forth if you have good government, right? If you have a ruling ruling or governing institutions that are responsive to the needs of people or the economic needs. So instead of deploying I heard about the criminal incidents that happened, and young kids turning on each other, and they do that because you can either assume it's because they're criminal minded, or you can understand that it's because they don't have anything else they would be doing, right? A young man who's selling drugs on the streets or robbing a house is, of course, with the rule of law, you have to take action. But then the systemic problem there is that these young people do not have opportunities. And that's because government is not meeting its mandate in the way maybe it writes its budgets, the way it prioritizes job creation, or where it prioritizes job creation, because it's also not being held to account. Our finance bill, for example, would have resulted, it would have been devastating for young people. But then the fact that we have a vibrant opposition, but an even more vibrant first term of government, meant that they had to rethink and instead implement austerity measures. One of the austerity measures that I think would be very interesting for you to learn about, because I think it's the same here. We know a bit about how the leadership. We've seen them in our country, and we wondered, how you come all the way from Barbados to here, and then we see you hopping around, Western capitals. We know that. We've seen that. We follow the news. And one of the austerity measures that came out of this push by the first term of government, the people, was that unnecessary foreign trips by government officials have been furloughed, have been stopped. Any shows of opulence, any new purchases of cars, any new renovations. We had something called the confidential budget that some government officials had. The office of the first lady, the office of the second lady, the office of the prime cabinet's wife, all those have been abolished. So the money that would otherwise have been used for development, and I would also add the queen of the skies, but the money that would have been used for development was being misspent and being embezzled, basically. So that's going to make a difference, because that money is going to end up one way or another. It's going to end up in the pockets of Kenyans. So that's why it's important.
There's another. Thank you so much. There's another question on the screen. Was there organized government in Africa before the colonizers arrived? And do the people have a right of civil disobedience if the government abuses its power? Well, we can see that they do. No, the answer to number 2 is what we've been seeing happening for the entire week. But how about the first part of the question?
Yes. So the answer to that question is yes, and also no. Africa is a very big continent. It can fit most of the other continents within it. So it can fit the US, China, and mainland Russia in it. It's a very big continent. It's also a very diverse continent. So there were very many different forms of government that were present in many parts of the continent. In West Africa, mostly there were kingdoms. So we've heard about the Dahomey Kingdom. That is actually where most of the slave labor was drawn to bring to the African diaspora here in the Caribbean and Latin America and North America. Also because of proximity and because of the trade routes that existed. So there were kingdoms in Western Africa. There were also kingdoms in some parts of East Africa. So like Ethiopia, there's a very old monarchy that was there. In some parts of Kenya, some parts of Uganda, there are monarchies. The Baganda Kingdom, the Wanga Kingdom, the Rundi Kingdom, the Rwandan Kingdom. In Zimbabwe, there were also kingdoms. In South Africa, there was the Zulu Kingdom. There's some of these kingdoms still exist. So like the current government of Swaziland is a monarchy. The current part of the current government in Uganda is also a monarchy, the Baganda Kingdom. So there were quite a number of those types of societies. There are also military societies. So like the Maasai, for example, who were very militant. So they would form basically military structures around how they governed their country, their communities.
Yeah.
And then there were some communities, like the community where I come from, it was governed by a council of elders. So leadership was very flat. It was not hierarchical. What was absent was literacy, like written in many of the societies. In places like Ethiopia, there was already scripts and writing in ancient. Remember ancient Egypt is actually African. They make us believe that these ancient Egyptians were white people with straight hair, but they were just Africans like you and I. So it depends on where you are, but yes, there was many formalized systems of government.
Yeah. So, this is such an education, I say to you, Dr. Nathan Wangusi, and
Yeah.
you've answered a lot of questions for me. I'm sure you're not trying to say Kenya is a perfect place, but
No, it's not.
what we are talking about is identity, and I think a lot of us. Some people, this is going to go way over your head because you are focused on what's happening in politics right now. You're looking at what's happening right now. Oh wow, he dropped out. I think he's going to come back in. So for a lot of you, it's going to go over your head. But what we are doing this evening, we are talking here about empowerment. Okay, tonight this is about empowerment. It's about empowerment. It's about an understanding of who we are. This is the understanding that we should have had about ourselves when we were teenagers. So that a lot of this nonsense that is happening in the country right now, we would not take it. Because if we were being trained as we were, if we had this understanding that we have, that the way how Kenyans see themselves, and we have that in Barbados, the things that we are dealing with in Barbados, to believe that they could propose a cybercrime bill like this to Barbadians, they would never even conceive of it. Do you really think that cybercrime bill like this could work in Kenya when they created a whole digital protest against William Ruto? You believe they could propose a draconian cybercrime bill as they did to Kenya? Is this all over Africa? No, it's different. But we're talking about this specifically, they're explaining to you the mindset of the Kenyans. And a lot of us tonight, because we're not getting into gossip and we are not cursing the government and we are not talking about politics, we can't receive this because it's going over our heads. But we need to let it get into our minds and into our spirits. I think Dr. Nathan is back in. We dropped out there a bit a while ago. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, it just cut off briefly.
Yes. I think that is. This is important. I know we've gone over the time that we really more than what we thought we would have you on for, but
Yeah.
I'm going to do another 10 minutes of this because it is so good. Esther Blue is saying, I am loving this discussion, Marcia. We need more of this kind of teaching. I was reading that. We need more of this kind of teaching a little more often. I agree with you, Esther, because what it's doing, it's building up our mind. This is so important. Galvez is saying we are all free sovereign beings born with God-given rights. And we talk it. The thing is, do we actually believe it? That's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah. But let me get back to you, Dr. Nathan. Is there anything else you want to say to us here, on this side of the world? What do you want to say to us?
Yeah. To tie this all off, there's a very famous song by Bob Marley, who was an African from the diaspora, one of our prophets. The song is Iron Lion Zion, right?
Iron Lion Zion. I can't play it, but I'm going to try the lyrics because if I play it, I will get in trouble with YouTube. But let me try to find but you keep talking. Go ahead.
So this song has actually become an anthem for the Generation Zs, and in fact, in Kenya we call them our Generation Zion. From that song. So at this point,
Generation Zion.
Generation Zion, and there's a scripture from Isaiah that says, "Rise up, Generation Zion, rise up, Generation Zion, and drop off the shackles of slavery that are upon you." Um, I think that is what is happening in Kenya. That we have a generation of young people who have made a collective decision that they are going to assert their sovereign right over their affairs, over their country. And I think that lesson is true anywhere. There have been mushrooming of protests in other parts of Africa, in Ghana, in Ghana, in Uganda. And not to say you should, usurp your government, but you should assert, you should rise up and and take back your country and take your society in the direction that you as a people collectively desire, through not just your first and your other arms of government, but in the way that you live as a society. And when you have a government that is not responsive, passing oppressive and in fact, I read the cyber bill, and it goes into the realm of the ridiculous. Where
So
there's
say that again. I want you. I'm going to feature you on the screen as you
yeah
talk to us about that cybercrime bill. You just said
yeah
something. Keep going.
I was saying the cyber crime bill. It goes into the realm of the ridiculous, if you ask me. This could not fly in Kenya or in any democratic society where you assert freedom of speech as a right. Then you say, if you say something or make a tweet or make a comment online that annoys a government official, giving special status to this individual who is you elected, then you can be imprisoned for up to 7 years, or given a fine of $70,000 or both. That's just, it's way out there, but it has happened because the powers that be believe that they're entitled to do that, right? And that the people that who are their subjects, not their fellow citizens, um, should live in line. So that's just neo. It is not even neo-colonialism. This is neo-slavery, in a sense, where you're trying to manage the affairs and lives of people. And that I'll sound this as a warning that when you do that, when you accept when you accept that kind of legislation, that kind of enforcement, others follow. If you follow any society where oppression has become the rule, the law of the land, it always starts with the little things, right? It starts with the cybercrime bill, then there'll be controlling your access to information, then the next time they're controlling your ability to vote, and it goes on and on and on. And before long, you're back to a society where your fundamental freedoms are compromised. So that's just a caution that not just to the population, the people, but also the leadership. That once you start going down that slippery slope, it never stops. So they should consider. It is not wrong to make legislation around digital privacy, for example. It's not wrong to make laws around like cyber crimes. But then to take it to the extent that I'm hearing here in Barbados, that's by all stretch of my imagination quite ridiculous, and I don't know that it would fly in any other part of the world. Um, Given that you don't have an opposition to actually like interrogate these laws, that responsibility falls on the people on this call. It falls on the people who are walking on the streets, right? Who, whether or not you like it, will be affected by this bills, these types of legislation. Because if you have one down the pike, another is coming, right? And you know, it's a cautionary tale. Um, we hope that our collective interests, as I was just reading a comment, but we hope our collective interests are represented. We hope that in Kenya, for example, there's been a positive response to our protests, where government has actually conceded. They pulled out the finance bill and give very many concessions on what they need to do moving forward in terms of managing corruption and managing public expenditure, and that should just show that it is, if it's possible in Kenya, it's possible anywhere in the world. And we draw, and as I said, we've drawn inspiration from songs that came out of the diaspora. This generation of Kenyans, our Gen Zs, our Generation Zion, as I said, I told this government official that these are lions, they are not lambs, and I believe the same spirit and the same conviction can be found here in Barbados and other parts of the Black diaspora.
Yes, correct. We are lions and not lambs. Let me just read. I don't know if Dave can put the lyrics of the Bob Marley song on the screen. I'm not allowed to play the song because of copyright issues with YouTube. But I just want to read the lyrics of this song, Bob Marley song. It says, "I'm on the rock and then I check a stock. I have to run like a fugitive to save the life I live. I'm going to be iron like a lion in Zion. I'm going to be iron like a lion in Zion. Iron like a lion in Zion. I'm on the run, but I have got no gun." See, they want to be the stars, so they're fighting tribal war. And they're saying iron like a lion in Zion. Iron like a lion in Zion. Iron, lion, Zion. Yeah, I mean, this is it, the lyrics. It's just powerful. I'm sorry, I can't play it. I'm on the rock running and you running. I take a stock, running like a fugitive. I had to run like a fugitive just to save the life I live. I'm going to be iron like a lion in Zion. I am going to be iron like a lion in Zion. Iron, lion, Zion. Everybody, I hope you are saying it at home with me. Iron, lion, Zion. Iron, lion, Zion. Iron like a lion in Zion. Wow, that is powerful. Powerful indeed. And this song was written, you see, that's why I say, Doctor, we are so powerful. We are so powerful because here it is that Bob Marley, I mean, his heritage is slavery. I mean, because his ancestors then were enslaved, but he could get a level of consciousness to write a song like this that today is now empowering the Gen Zs in Kenya.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? And that's what I want to say to Barbadians, that we are not what they say that we are. They say we are passive. That is not us. That is not us. Iron like a lion in Zion. That's who we are. That is exactly who we are. And I'm hoping that we could be empowered by this and not asking, what's the use of this kind of discussion? How is it going to help our young men who are killing themselves? Can you imagine a question like that? We have to move ourselves to another level of consciousness. There is, I see Lumumba Batson. Let me see. I see him on twice. Let me see if this one is going to work. Is he on? Hi, Lumumba. Good night. Lumumba. Okay, he's not hearing me. Okay, let me try this one. Okay, let me. Hi, Lumumba. Hi, Lumumba. Hello, Lumumba. Are we getting some challenge?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we're getting some feedback there. There's some feedback that I wish he could have come in here and just say a few things for us. Well, Dr. Wangusi, I really don't want to keep you too much and take up your entire Friday night, but this is, I could tell you this has been like a wonderful plate of beautiful food. It's been rich, and really, really, really powerful. And for me, I love this kind of education because it's changing my consciousness. And it's not, I'm not just regurgitating things that I've heard, but I'm being challenged. My mindset is being challenged, and I'm being raised to a different level of consciousness. And for me, that is powerful. And I want to say thank you so very much. Like a lion, I'm iron like a lion in Zion.
Yeah.
I love it. And I had this level of consciousness when I was much younger. But I'm here right now and I'm embracing it. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, and to your listeners and guests. Thanks for having me on the show as well.
Yes, you are most welcome, and for sure you are right there in Washington. I'm hoping that we could always have this conversation, and we can get some of that. We can get back to that full consciousness of who we are. I think we could be very powerful people. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you. Enjoy Barbados. Enjoy the rest
Yes,
of your time here.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
And feel free to find me on social media by my name or social media handle NATEKISH. I'll share my email. Maybe you can post it on the chat. If you have
Yes.
any questions, comments, ideas for discussions, and ways we can collaborate, I'll be happy to engage in that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nathan Wangusi. Thank you. God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Wow. I am hoping that can anybody just tell me I'm going to be like a teacher tonight. Can you type something that you have learned tonight? Something new. Or you might have learned it or you were inspired. Were you inspired tonight? If yes, in what way? Did you learn something new tonight? We didn't come here. We're not cursing the government. We're not saying complaining. We're building up ourselves. And I know for some of you, you think that, well, what's the use? Somebody wrote, what's the use of this? How is this helping us? Can you write for me one thing that you have learned, or in one way that you've been inspired, one way that your consciousness was elevated just by the show? Somebody says the power of the children. I love that. The power of the children. While you're writing, let me just say that we have our coming up this Sunday. We have a special time that we're going to have on the 7th. We didn't get to announce it very much this week, but on Sunday the 7th from 12 noon to 6 p.m. we are going to be, if we could get it a little bigger on the screen, that would be lovely. We have Stressless, a loyal opposition family picnic and lime. Bring your picnic baskets with food and drink to share. Enjoy cricket, football, volleyball, a mini stream hike, rock climbing for the young at heart, and a visit to the famous Concert Bay. It says family picnic and lime, play games, nature adventure, Bath St. John. All right. And Sunday, you bring your own food and enjoy. Just bring the family and let us relax together as a family and just, let's just have a good time. All right. And it's Sunday, July 7th, 12 noon to 6 p.m. I believe that Dave can send me the information if the bus is still going to be, is there still going to be a bus leaving from Independence Square, or is there still a bus? If someone could send me that information via WhatsApp. so that I can announce it. But it's going to be a great time that we're going to have there at Bath St. John. And while I'm announcing this, I want people to write in the comment section what you have learned since we started this program this evening with Dr. Nathan. But we're inviting you out on Sunday from 12 noon to 6 p.m. We're going to have a show on Sunday night. So I'm leaving Bath to run up to get the show going. All right. Sunday evening. Yeah. But we're definitely going to we're going to have the show, or we're going to have the show on Sunday. But I want to tell you that Sunday, July 7th, 12 noon to 6 p.m. Bath St. John family picnic and lime, right? So bring your own food baskets and let's go. All right. Yeah. Now let's go through what people said that they learned so far. Let's see, look and see what we learned tonight. We're not here, we're not cursing nobody, and we're not complaining. We did not do any complaining tonight, not yet, right? But yeah, yes, we need to rise to a higher level of consciousness. Yeah. What Easy D says, thank you, Doc. Pass the cybercrime bill in Barbados hasn't been passed or implemented. It is currently being debated. Great discussion. Well, yeah, I think you're it was passed in the upper house already. Easy D. Okay. And it is at the Senate level that the debate is happening. Just so let's be clear about that. And if we did not have the all the this show and other shows that have been on, various other persons who have their blogs and WhatsApp messages, not just the Marcy Week show, but all the other shows, and the protest, it probably would have been passed. So it is a challenge. It is an issue. So let's not say that, the government did not decide easily to that they're going to do, to have discussion on their own. It did not happen that way. It was when the people asserted their constitutional rights that the government of this country decided to have discussion. And we must note that up until now, the results of those discussions, or the conclusions of the discussions, have not yet been brought back to the country. And we are watching that. And we need to be clear and honest in what we're saying. Simone Daniel, I learned how the current generation gained their fearlessness in a way that Occupy playgrounds seem to be their rite of passage to become women and men. I love that. I love that. I love that. Galby says, as a nation, we must rise to a higher level of consciousness. I'm just reading. I'm not reading criticisms. I'm reading what we have learned. Hurricane says, thank you, sir, for a magnificent contribution. Judy Jill says, the power of the children. I love that. Jacqueline says, I'm inspired by the courage of the young people. I can listen, Doctor, all night. Sorry, he has to go. Galby says, definitely inspired seeing young Africans so focused. Sandra Brewster says, we have to stand up for our rights in BIM. Lemuel Tubb said, Bob also sang Emancipate Yourself from Mental Slavery. Yes, he did sing that. Hurricane Writer says, the free minds of the Kenyan children contrasted the fearful minds of many Barbadians. Loyal Daughter 66, Barbadians need to learn their rights and responsibilities. Know your constitution. Bali says that we have relinquished our fundamental rights by virtue of our vote and then allow successive administrations to lord over our lives. That's what we've done. And we take like an oath, Bali, of commitment. And it's like we formed, when we vote, we make it a religion. We make it, it's like we bow down. These become our masters. Yeah, when we decide that we are going to vote, once we vote, the vote, somehow we dip our hand in that red ink. When we used to do it, I don't know if they do that anymore. I can't remember. But somehow we give away our power completely. We can't criticize that government. Once we vote for that government, we cannot constructively criticize that government anymore. That's what we do here. Joel King says, everyone, the children, including the children, know the Constitution and the lions are harmless. Yes. Yeah, the children in Kenya were like miniature Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso, especially in the last photo. Okay, I'm trying to find what we learned, because some people, instead of learning, we're criticizing the rest of us. I learned how the current generation gained their fearlessness in a way that the occupied playground seemed to be their rite of passage. Oh, I read that one. Marcia, I was inspired by the courage and determination of the children. They gave us a magnificent example of courageous resistance to oppression. Tammy Griffith says we need to be fearless. Esther Blue says the school needs to change their curriculum that's based on the old colonial teaching. Time for real identity. We don't even teach history. Not all of our children learn history in school. It's only if they choose to learn history in third form. History is not compulsory in our schools anymore. So what do we expect? How do we begin to love ourselves? What do we expect? Yeah. Yes, the people move about with the lion. Philip Grosette says, I'm reminded that I'm a powerful being as long as I rid myself of the fear factor. The sky is a limit. I learn to fear not the inevitable, but embrace the potential good that originate from. Right? I got the gist of what you're saying. Okay. Now, we're being told that the bus to Bath St. John will be at the Independence Square from 11 a.m. It leaves at 11:45 a.m. Bring a contribution for the bus. It returns from Bath back to Independence Square at 6 p.m. So the bus is going to be at Independence Square at 11 o'clock. 11 a.m. the bus will be at Independence Square, and it's going to leave Independence Square at 11:45 a.m. So it's going to wait for you for 45 minutes, and then it's going to go. And then it's going to leave Bath St. John at 6 o'clock in the evening to take you back to Independence Square. Okay? All right. So that's our family picnic that is going to be this Sunday, July 7th from 12 noon to 6 p.m. Let me just check if Lumumba can get back in. Hi, Lumumba. Good evening. Let's see if we can hear him. Hi.
Yeah, good evening. Could you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Have you been listening?
Yeah, I've been listening. I've been listening to the brother my brother Nathan, and I think there's so much we could learn from that. There's so much. You asked what everybody got out of it from listening to it. What I got out of it is that it has to start from young. The education of our children and the proper way of educating our children about their their constitutional rights. This is something that that's why the youths are so politicized in those countries, because they're being taught about themselves and about their country and the constitutions and the laws of their country and what rights they have from a very young age. I even hear them talking about, the brother was speaking about the Animal Farm, and how many Bajans actually read Animal Farm. And usually when you read it, I heard you say it usually it's pertaining to, you have to have some type of class in order to read it. But this is something that Animal Farm should be something that every child in the Caribbean should learn. You see, so I'm thankful that the brother, even the part about lions, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that lions, just don't attack you when they see you. So coming up in an environment like that from young and not having fear of animals, not having fear of nature, seeing you and nature as one, it brings about a whole different mindset, a whole different reality. And this is what our children need. Um, our children usually getting that fear removed from them in a way that we don't want it, which is through violence. A lot of our youths are losing the fear through violence, and it shouldn't have to be that way. So I was thankful for Brother Nathan to coming on. I want to thank Andrea for introduce. Andrea is actually the one that called me and told me about the Brother Nathan. So I want to thank her for that. From the time she heard he was from Kenya, she called me and she said, "Listen, I got somebody here from Kenya. You may be interested in talking to." So I see what it morphed into. He coming on your show. It was a great show tonight, Marcia. Really great show. I could not move. I was just riveted just listening to the brothers speak. And we need more of this, not just for 1 week or once a week or once a month. This is something, because we are a colonized people. So don't expect the way we have been taught to just be raised overnight. It's not going to happen. But, through constantly programs like this, getting the information out, linking us up with each other from Africa to the Caribbean to America, linking us up the through Pan-African way, sharing ideas, all of this is what's going to bring about that unity that we talk about so often, but seem to have problems when it comes to unifying on the ground level. So yeah, thanks a lot, Marcia, for that. For this. Well, all your programs is all the shows is good, but sometimes there are those that stick out more than others. And I think tonight, Brother Nathan really hit it home. I hope the people that was listening, whether you in Barbados or whatever part of the Caribbean you may be, or even in America, wherever you may be at, I hope that what Brother Nathan said really sank home. It's our time. It's our time, and nobody is stopping us from becoming who we are but us. So the ball is in our court. The ball is actually in our court now, and I know that we're rising, Marcia. I know that we're rising. I could see it. Even people say, well, but somebody told me the other day, well, they're not participating in the marches because we don't have a lot of people. But I was saying to them, listen, it's not about that. I mean, everything starts from one. I don't care where everything starts from one. You got to in order to get two, you got to get past one. And we got to stop looking at this thing about what other people is doing, because other people is not doing it. I'm not doing it. I know, don't worry about people. It's about you. as I always say, I got friends that I tell them, I got associates, I tell them about the marches. I would like them to come. I would like to see them there. But because they're not there, that doesn't mean that I'm going to say, well, they're not going, so I ain't going. No,
But
it,
you
it,
know, you're so correct, you know, Lumumba, and I just want to, I want to publicly say thank you to you and to your show, that you have and your Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on your page, because you've been pushing this kind of teaching as well, about our identity, and I want to acknowledge you. I want to say thank you for yourself and Bongo Lights, who were able to affirm me when I just started out. You saw what I was doing, and you affirmed me in that. And we myself and Dave and you and Bongo, we work together like a family, really. And I want to publicly thank you. I want to thank you for the connection that you gave to this doctor coming on the show tonight, and for the work that you do in Barbados. Because we a lot of times we don't stop many times to say thank you, and I want to say thank you. Before you go though, I know Sherura from Uganda. Listen, we're getting a 1-2 punch tonight. So we got Kenya, and they're all coming from the east, East Africa. So we got Kenya. Kenya came and gave us woo. And here comes Sherura is coming now, and he's coming at us like this with Black economic empowerment. This is what's happening tonight. Education night, you know. But listen, Lumumba,
right.
I want you to think about this and just say something about this before you go quickly, because Sherura is right there in the waiting room. Listen, after hearing something like this tonight, what do we do if they were to come and pass that cybercrime bill in the same way that they had presented it? What do you think? Listen, after hearing this tonight, what should Barbadian response be?
What should it? Well, their response should be, Marcia, to realize that nothing is going to come out the sky to solve our problems. We are not going to solve our problems just by praying. Just by praying, um, we have to act. We have to get up. We have to respond. And I think that that is the message that the brother brought to us, by telling us and showing us what is taking place in Kenya, how the youths are responding, and the reason and what make them respond the way they respond. So, to me, it's just saying to us, we have to get up. It's not going to change no other way but us standing up, speaking out. It is our right to speak out. And like the people say, and like the brother said, and like you always say, if we don't stand up and if we don't speak out, we have to accept whatever happens. We can't blame, no, we have to blame ourselves. We have to blame ourselves. All over the world, people are standing up. In Africa, the youths are standing up. Or in England, in Canada, wherever you go, the only place that seems to be very silent is the Caribbean. And we need to stand up. We stand up for everything else except the things that we need to stand up for, which is our basic human rights, our right to speak, our right to be able to be respected as men and women wherever we go. We need to know that nobody's going to give us that right. We have to take it. We have to take that right. And that's the only way we're going to get it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lumumba. And again, thank you
Yeah.
for introducing us to Dr. Nathan. Thank you very much. God bless you. And
Thank you for
I
inviting me.
hope to see you at the picnic.
Yeah, I'll be there.
See you at the picnic.
Yeah.
All right, Lumumba.
All right.
God bless.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
God bless you.
Well, let me take this opportunity to welcome Sherura Mpora Kacwagure. I'm trying. Kacwagure, right, from Uganda. I'm trying. I'm really trying. It's a real pleasure to have you. We have wise men from the east of Africa. Kenyan. We just had Dr. Nathan from Kenya, and we now have you from Uganda. I realize. I think it's Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. Is that how it works?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, Kenya first, Uganda, and Rwanda. I'm hoping to go to Kenya this year. I would love to. I've been to Rwanda, and I have friends. I know I have friends in Uganda. You're from Uganda. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Monsieur. It's an honor being here again. It's. I really appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing. Greetings from this side. It's early morning here, and I know it's evening in Barbados. It's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to having you know to learn from one another. I hate to be called a wise man. I like to be called a student because I'm still learning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a privilege, and we are always happy to
Yeah.
have you. So, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you very much. Today, of course, as I told you, we'll be talking about Black economic empowerment. And this is a topic I am passionate about since majority of us are stuck in poverty. Wherever you look, whether in the diaspora, whether on the African continent, for some reason, the poorest people are always black. If you're looking for that bottom of the pit, you look at black people, and this is what I would like us to talk about. You see, poverty is a weapon that is used. It's not that it happens by mistake. No, it's a weapon because it's the same weapon that was used to enslave black people as long as you made sure they were very poor. So it was easy to control them. But what most people don't realize, and most especially those in power, is that as soon as slavery was abolished, a new system of slavery was introduced. And this system was for us to always, have small money that keeps us surviving while we provide cheap labor. This is so we had to keep on working for the big, for the big companies and big corporations, while we got peanuts to take home, and we have kept in the same system. All of us poor, and the few who get money, there are very few. And this is not only in one place. When you go to places with black people, it's the same problem. Is that the majority, the big percentage is poor, and this is what we need to look at and find out why are we, the poorest. And throughout history, the poorest are the most despised. There are a lot of stereotypes towards poor people. But when you look at it, because here we are dealing with capitalism. Capitalism is a very exploitative system. It's about exploitation. It's about competition. It's about, outcompeting your competitor. And when you look at, our system of setup as black people, we came from a system which was communal. It was for looking out for one another. So, communal setup is pro society, is pro the community, while capitalism is pro the individual. So
Yes.
we have to transition from being communal based to individual based. The individual based system is very dangerous because you end up getting exterminated, getting wiped out because your mind is looking at yourself alone. So you find a lot of people end up not having children. The children become a liability, and families become a liability. That's why you see big sex industries coming up. The manufacturing industry now going into sex because the individual is trying to stay alone as much as they can. So that one is not sustainable. So what is sustainable is the community, because the community builds a nation. So now, for some reason, we have to transition. But I have seen that there's a way we can stay in communalism, not being, individualistic. And one of the ways is having strong unions. That is the worker unions. They must be strong and solid. And you see, this is now becoming a big discussion among the Europeans, among the Americans. The people, the working class is saying, look, we need to be part of the business. It is unfair that I can work for a company for 10, 15, 20 years and I'm not one of the shareholders. It's unacceptable. But for capitalism, the business owners become so greedy. You must be so greedy and selfish for you to be a good capitalist. So this is now, if we are to have a solution, we must start by having strong unions and make sure that the government deliberately, because when you have strong unions, even if you have foreign companies coming from other countries, they will not repatriate a lot of profits. The profits will stay among these union workers or these shareholders. Now, the other problem which I have seen, Marcia, and which surprises me, is all black governments. I don't know how it is in Barbados. All black governments globally, they don't help their SMEs. They don't help small companies. So I ask myself, how do you grow a society without helping SMEs?
So you're
These
saying
small
small businesses, you're finding that they're not helping small businesses. Well, it's the same thing in Barbados. In fact, we don't even have someone who, there's nobody that is over small businesses. We were just, I think the opposition was just speaking about that at a press conference, that small businesses in Barbados, it's almost, there's not even anyone assigned to that. I mean, that part of, yeah.
It's a shame because, Marcia, how do you hope to get taxes without without empowering the SMEs? Because the SMEs are the most employing sector in every economy. And if you realized after the COVID pandemic, most governments, I mean the European and American governments, had bailouts for SMEs. They had to give them money to make sure they stay afloat. For black communities globally, they did not get anything, even in America, even in Europe, because it's deliberate. The system is set up to have a certain type of people have this money and be well. So how do you really hope to advance a society without assisting the SMEs? And one of the examples I have is, why don't you get non-secured low interest loans for SMEs so that when they get businesses they can be able to access non-secured, because SMEs are very small businesses. And what I really find surprising is that all our governments, all black governments, have excuses why they shouldn't empower us, but they actually have no excuse for empowering foreign. I mean, people who don't look like us and who look down us, and they call them investors. So we stay in a perpetual state of poverty. So we are voting leaders to make excuses. And I'll give you an example. In Africa, they say when you give black people money, they will not use it well. They will not use these loans well. That means you're a failure as a leader because you have not built capacity. These countries, the ones we see in the Western world, did not wake up and perform magic and get where they are. No, it was a gradual process that the system deliberately worked towards. But their time was different because they had no competition. They had nothing. We are still young economies. We have been around. We have gotten independence in the last, Barbados is a few years ago. So building system doesn't work in 10, 15 years. It's a long process. You can see even European governments are still struggling right now, even when they have built systems with free labor for so long. So we have to look at How do we empower small businesses? Because once you empower small businesses, that means you have a big workforce. They employ so many people. It is not rocket science. This is a very small thing to look at. Because if we empower SMEs, then the country also widens its tax base. There is no profit repatriation. The money doesn't go out. So what is happening is that people from Europe, people from America, people from the Indian, they come and milk our economies, take away the money, come back, milk, take away the money with the support of leaders. And the leaders, they are thinking short term because they're saying we have to find somewhere to get taxes from. Yes, I understand. We have to get taxes to run our systems. But when do we close off that? If you ask all our leaders, they have nothing like that in their picture to say, look, we have to empower our people. Because what happens is that most of our leaders are suffering with low self-esteem or inferiority complex. If you have inferiority complex, you actually cannot build a society. So we have to deliberately look at how we can empower our systems. And this must be intentional. It is surprising to find out, Marcia, that we are just consumers. We don't produce anything. We just consume. We consume from China. We consume from the US. We consume from the EU. We consume from India. But all these that I've mentioned are producers. So we just consume, and it's all of us. We keep on consuming. Myself, I do it deliberately. When I go to a supermarket, I must make sure that I look for things that are from black people. And if I can't find them, I deliberately buy something from China. And if I can't find a substitute from China, then the last resort is America and EU, because I can't use my money to empower someone who looks down on me. You'd rather look down on me, but no, I shouldn't give you my money. No, let me keep my money in my pocket. So you have to look at our system or economic system. Why is it that we are the poorest? Some justify it by saying, we don't have no business acumen. No way. You can't say that. You can't say that billions and billions of people, all of them collectively, don't have business acumen. No, it's unacceptable. It's an excuse from leaders who are failing. We just have poor leadership, Monsieur. Leadership that laments and negates us. It has, a negative perspective towards us. And we all also listen to this because our ancestors traded since time immemorial. Our ancestors from Egypt, our ancestors from Mali, our ancestors from Dahomey, from the Congo, all they have done is trade. So when we come from a lineage of trade, how would you say that we don't know how to trade? No, we know economics, and our economics actually worked without, making us so greedy. The other problem I see with us is this song about, investors. And when you look in black communities, the word investor means non-black. We in Africa, I don't know how it is in Barbados. In Africa, there's what they say local investors, and they give incentives, but most of these countries are talking about people who borrow. If you look at black communities, and when I talk black communities, I mean everyone that is black and even brown. When we are borrowing money, the interest rate is through the roof. You don't get the same interest as a white American citizen or a British citizen, even if you're in Britain. The liberated system is done in a way that they give you higher credit rate. I mean, the credit ratings are lower, and for the white guy, they are higher. So for them, they can borrow without even security. Now it gets worse in nations where we are predominantly, where the majority of the population is black, like here in Africa and Barbados and the Caribbean. So the system is worked out in a way that when they are lending to the local banks, they make sure they tell them that your country is risk averse, or it's risky to lend to them. So the interest rates shoot up. The local bank factors in a little bit of their interest as well, and the cost of administration. And you find that our interests are, you can't afford them. And somehow our leaders don't have time to go and negotiate something.
Right.
For the local businesses, that is very low interest rate. So here we are competing on a global scale with someone in India who gets a loan at 2% interest, with someone in China who gets at 0 interest. You know, and myself in my country, I borrow at 18%, the lowest. Yes, the lowest. So I'm supposed to compete with the Chinese. So here it is. So here it is. I go and get a government tender or a government contract, and I have to borrow from the bank, and the bank gives me the money at 18%. But you see, I'm competing in this tender with the Chinese, and the Chinese is borrowing at interest free. So the Chinese has built a system already. He has learned from the Chinese system the way of doing administration, and he makes it's very cheap. The Chinese in Africa use prisoners, ex-convicts, to come and do labor, very cheap, because most of them don't, they provide free labor. So here we are competing, and I'm borrowing at 18%, and I have high cost of administration. So how do I compete? There's no way I can compete. So what we have done for Black communities, we have focused on speaking the white man's language very well, you know, and imitating the white man, and competing in poverty. We have developed a system where we don't want any one of us to get better.
Yeah.
We're just poor, and we just keep supervising one another to make sure we don't get out of poverty. When your brother or your cousin or your neighbor buys a new car, you really feel bad. I mean, when they start doing a small business and you see they're making some good, they buy a house, it's not good, because our system now, we have developed it to stay poor. But when the white man comes in and does the same, we are happy. So this is very important. And if you look at all our system, it's the same problem. So we must get affordable financing for Black businesses and for Black individuals. If you're getting a loan, Marcia, it must be the same. But you see, this is economic slavery that me and you are victims to. The leaders don't see this. The economists that we have are from Harvard, they're from Oxford. They have been taught one system of economics, the one that is developed by the IMF and the World Bank. But remember, these institutions were not developed to bail us out of poverty and impoverishment. These systems were developed to reconstruct Europe after the World War II. So these systems were not built for us, though they are changing a little bit, but they do it slow and gradual. And it is very funny that we will one day believe that these systems will change for the betterment of Black people. It's the biggest joke. So we have to find a way. And the first thing is, Marcia, we must be selfish in this thing, because capitalism is about selfishness. We must buy Black. We must make sure that we have bigger trading blocks. The Caribbean must trade. They must let Black people trade amongst each other. We should not close off people and we say, this is Barbados, we're shutting out the Jamaicans, we're shutting out the people from Belize. No, people must trade because they are all poor. The
Yeah.
money must stay within. The money should not move. Things should have a way of moving from East Africa to Barbados to Jamaica with ease. But we don't have freight companies, the one for shipping. We don't have them. We don't have airlines. We are starting now, but they are very expensive. The whole system is very expensive. So we stay in a perpetual state of poverty. I think the only thing that will bail us out
Yeah, and we
is
have
going to be
literally have 5 minutes. You know, tonight I don't have a long time for you, so we have
yeah.
5 minutes, and it's now warming up. But go ahead, take the 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you for it's so the thing that is going to kick us out is going to be AI, because now everything is going computerized. Everything is becoming machine. The robots are coming up soon. People like Elon Musk are now investing in this, and that tells you that the black man is going to be poorer and poorer, and is going to stay in the perpetual state of poverty. But if we become selfish and we buy our own and we become disciplined and we hold our leaders to account, then we can change this. Thank you very much, Monsieur.
Yeah. This is, with just the tip of the iceberg. We've got to come back and break this down. Break this down a bit. Victims of economic slavery, high interest rates, just a lack of belief and a desire for wanting to invest in ourselves. We would rather to invest in someone else. We're not trading among ourselves. We don't trust one another. All of these things really are causing us to live in economic slavery. Is what we are living in that, even though we have leaders that look like us. And I think that is what you're advocating for small businesses, for our government in making sure that they're doing something extra special. They're taking special care of small businesses. Well, Sherura, thank you so very, very, very much. And we normally go longer, but as I told you, we have some home stuff we have to look at tonight. But looking forward to next week, Friday night, when we'll have a longer time. I promise you. Thank you so much. God bless. Bye bye. Wow. Listen, we're having a treat, and all of these topics that we are discussing, my wonderful people, it's about building up the mind. It's about changing our level of consciousness, bringing us to a higher level of consciousness and understanding of who we are. Because yes, we say, okay, we're in Barbados and this is what we're going through at the moment. We look at our present situation. The thing is, do we have the strength of mind and the power and the will to rise up and to get out of it? Very, 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 very important. And so these when we have these guests in from Africa, it's a time for us to build up ourselves, yeah, and to recognize that it's okay sometimes to sit down and to learn from somebody else. A lot of you are asking, where is Mr. Franklin? Where is Kazwa Franklin? As I had announced, I guess you guys were listening on Wednesday. Mr. Franklin is very tired, and he said, you know what, Marcia, I need to get some rest, and he will be back on Sunday. So you will see Mr. Franklin, God willing, on Sunday evening. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with him. He's not sick. So we're getting busy. Well, he's not sick at all. He is getting some rest, and I think it's important that all of us, that you get some rest and you come again, right? And I think that is important. Now, we might be having someone, I'm not seeing him on as yet, but to come on to speak about his life. He's a young man who went through a life of crime and has left that life of crime. He was shot by the police, and he's lived to tell the tale. And it's changed his life, and going around talking to children at schools and so on in Barbados. And I wanted him to come on tonight, and so I'm waiting to see if he will come on. But in the meantime, I want to talk to us about crime tonight. Let's have a family talk about crime tonight. We we saw the press conference. What did you all think of the press conference? The Prime Minister finally decided that she was going to hold a press conference to address crime. Now, yesterday, Thursday, the leader of the opposition had a press conference in which he addressed crime in that press conference. And there were some of the ideas that he spoke up that she came behind him and said the same thing. And someone, let me read what somebody sent to me here. Is it, who sent me something here? Is it Everton or Keith? Let's see. Somebody sent me here. And let me hear your thoughts about that press conference. Okay. So Keith says here, I heard the PM in a press conference saying that the opposition leader and her are basically agreed on no bail for murder accused. Right? So Mr. Thorne said that yesterday, and he didn't say no bail, but he was saying, to reduce bail, I believe. And the person said, wasn't it yesterday that Mr. Thorne held his press conference? But Mia holds a press conference today after Ralph had his, and trying to create the impression that Ralph Thorne, is agreeing with her. No, Mr. Thorne, and that's part of the propaganda, and she's very, very good at that. But the thing is that here we are, we understand, where people are not stupid, Prime Minister Motley. We understand what you're trying to do. We understand. You believe that you must take over the space. The Prime Minister of Barbados believes that when she must soak up the energy in the room, she must take over the space. No, Mr. Thorne, the leader of the opposition, had a press conference yesterday and spoke about the bail for murder, the accused, those who are accused of murder. That's what happened at his press conference, that a lot of thousands of people saw that. So you coming today to saying that the leader of the opposition agrees with you, because you always do that. And you have taken a position, Honorable Mia Motley. Your position is when you're in school and you have those people, basically they're bullies, and they believe that they are to take over everything. They must rule everything. So once Mia Motley is in power, then there is to be no other party but the BLP. There's no other party. So she wants to swallow up everybody. And that is why when she offered the DLP, the 2 Senate seats, I was glad that they did not take it. There are people who said, oh, they should have taken the Senate seats. No. I am glad they did not take nothing from that woman. Nothing from Mia Motley. Nothing from the Prime Minister of Barbados. The Prime Minister, Mia Motley. Don't take it from her. Because all is going to happen, she's going to take herself like this and swoop everybody in and draw everybody in. Yeah? So I'm in agreement with Keith, who sent me this. And he said, I'm going to finish reading what Keith says. Keith says, she just can't stand the fact that she's behind on anyone who should be, that she just can't stand the fact that she's behind on anyone who should be credited with doing good. I agree with you, Keith. I wonder if she had a press conference planned or it was as a result of the one held by the opposition. So it seemed like one could think that she is following. Yeah? She couldn't help herself, Keith said, from trying to score a political blow. She's looking at her phone. I didn't see the press conference because I do not watch the Prime Minister. I'm sorry. I do not. I used to, and I just cannot. I do not watch the Prime Minister. However, you take that. I have to protect my mental health. I am telling you. And I don't. According to Keith, I didn't see it, but is Keith right? Keith says that the prime minister was looking at her phone and saying something about Steve Blackett receiving correspondence regarding the court hearing. How come she has that information? Who shared it with her? Was it Steve Blackett? Was it via Pegasus or some other person in high office? She should tell us how she came to be in the possession of that information. Somebody right, Teroni said Ralph Thorne soon send me a man. You know, that's one man I believe she's very afraid of because he's a real man. Ralph Thorne is a real man. Ralph Thorne is a man. You understand? And she's around a lot of those men inside of that, you know, inside that parliament. A lot of them don't have no balls, you know, and so Ralph Thorne will tell her what time it is. And I believe that I honestly believe she's afraid of him. She's afraid of him. She cannot get into any kind of debate with him. I'm telling you, it will not happen. She's totally afraid of him. But let's talk about the press conference. So I saw in the newspaper that, you know, there's some things that were proposed, and okay, there's some good you know, proposals made to deal with the crime, and we are happy that she is finally addressing the crime. The PM outlines crime fighting plan or aid, and she also has aid for the fisher folk. Well, she would have had to have aid with how Ralph, you know, how Ralph was handling them scruffy. So she had to come up with aid for the fisher folk. All right. But Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley has announced a crime fighting plan. Woo! Finally, a crime fighting plan that includes the establishment of a special police unit to fight organized crime. So she's proposing establishment of the police unit to fight organized crime. The restriction of bail for people charged for murder and firearms offenses, and the expansion of community policing. She says on the issue of crime that she says it's a matter of grave concern, and disclosed that the government had asked for international police assistance with an independent study. So here we go again. I don't know. How do you all feel about that? She's asking for international police assistance to handle the crime here in Barbados. So what I have not heard from Miss Motley, how is she going to? So yes, we're going to increase policing. So you're hearing about policing, you're hearing about the laws, you know, because they're going to restrict bail for people who are accused of murder. And as the opposition said yesterday, that he made that suggestion yesterday, and so it is a good suggestion. Now, what about this bringing in this international assistance, international policing, international police assistance to help us with the crime in Barbados? So we're hearing what we're hearing. The proposal has to do with you know, legal proposals to deal with that aspect of it, the policing. But what we're not hearing is anything to do with the social issues, the social causes. That we're not hearing the issues, the social issues. I don't. Am I missing something? I didn't listen to the press conference. I'm reading it. I generally read, you know, the synopsis of the summary of the press conference through the newspapers. So am I missing something here? Where are the social, where are the plans to deal with the social causes of the crime in Barbados? Let's hear that. Yeah, Peteway, the new is a new crime fighting plan a shift away from the prevention aspect? What about the social issues? What are your thoughts about that, people? Where are, I mean, there's so many social issues. One, the obvious one is people don't have jobs. There's a whole issue of job security or no job at all, joblessness. Just look at that. I mean, some of the social issues that we don't want to address. Let's look at even some of these our young men that are involved in a life of crime. When there was a panel discussion that was put on by the leader of the opposition, there was a doctor at the very, very end of that, at the very, very end of the panel discussion. He got up and he said, we're not addressing the elephant in the room. Who remembered that? I'm going to see if anybody was there and remember what he said. We're not addressing the elephant in the room. Who remembered what he said was the elephant in the room? Huh? And I'm agreeing while you're writing. Somebody says anytime someone has to force you to do something, most of the time it's not successful or genuine. Ralph had to squeeze that press conference out of her, right? I'm telling you, we squeezed it out of her. She had not planned to come and talk to us about no crime, because the last time she came out and she said anything about crime, she said that crime will always be. It's almost like it was a lower level thing she was wasting her time with, until we start to have a murder a day. And we now have an opposition leader who is coming out and speaking out about the various issues. So she has a press conference. But what anybody can tell me, let me go down to the bottom of these comments quickly. Nobody can remember what he said. He talked about sexual abuse. Do you remember that? Sexual abuse. Do you know that there are lots of young men, a lot of young men have been abused in this country? A lot of times we get really really bent out of shape, and we want to do something when we hear about young women who are being sexually abused. We get bent out of shape, we get very angry, we become, we will want to take up arms. But you see, when it comes on to young men, somehow we kind of want to brush that aside. And the doctor got up and he said it. There was a quiet in the room when he said it, because he said that there are lots of these young men, you're trying to rehabilitate them, but what you don't know is that some of them have been abused. And they don't talk about it. In this kind of culture, when our young men are abused, especially sexually abused, they don't talk about it. We're seeing something going around where this is an allegation about an MP who has abused young men. Do you know that those are some of the social causes of crime? Do you know that when young men are abused, it could cause them to exhibit deviant behavior, anger, a lot of pent-up anger? These are some of the social issues that we're as a society, we're not touching it. You know what? We take something and we cover it all over. We cover over it. So here it is. She comes out at press conference, and we're first of all, we need to commend her that she came out. Ralph was able to pull her out, and she came out, and she had some proposals, and those are good proposals. Some of them, I'm not sure about this international, getting help from, international aid in terms of policing. Why is it that we always have to be seeking to get international assistance, either it is a loan or all kinds of different things, the drafting of our bills, a lot of international help with the drafting of our bills. Now where they're talking to us about international police assistance. Have we exhausted our police in Barbados? Is it that they're not good enough? What is happening here? Yeah. And when she talks about organized crime, can you explain to us what are you talking about here? Yeah. Stephen Strickland said we can laugh first. I might have missed it, but no mention was made of the role we, the church, can be included. Okay, and someone has said about this Sunday, I don't know, Rufus Brooms, I don't know. I didn't understand what Stephen Strickland is saying there. But yes, I mean, all of these entities, faith plays an important, very, very important role in stemming crime. It's happened all over the world. And so that is important. But what I want to hear, what do we think? I was waiting for my guest to come on. I guess the guest is not coming on. I'm not seeing him at all. So I will assume that he's not going to make it on. I had someone on to fill this last half hour, but we'll talk tonight. Bali says, Marcy, I heard a discussion not long ago whereby a young man was sent to a popular night spot and sold to a visitor. What? He was sold to a visitor. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Listen, we could pass all the laws, and I believe it's important. The bail issue, I think, is we need to restrict definitely those who are they're charged of murder. We need to restrict the bail. I agree with that. As I said, the leader of opposition said that yesterday. So she's just echoing what he said, and I think that is important. I don't understand where, I didn't hear any them talking about trying to stop the source of the guns, the source of the drugs. I'm not hearing that. I see Lumumba is still on. I don't know if he will have anything to say on this here in the next 10 minutes that we have. Yeah. Let me see if Lumumba, because I'm not seeing my other guest. Lumumba, are you still there? I guess he's not there. But no, the important, one of the important things I think that Barbados has to look at is the source of guns, the source of drugs. It will be an interesting discussion, because if we are going to seriously, if we are serious, the Prime Minister said this is a grave issue, is of grave concern. One of the things that you're going to have to look at, Madam Prime Minister, you're going to have to look at some of the social issues that are causing this increase in crime. You can't ignore it. You're going to have to look at the source of the guns. Where are they getting them from? People are having AK-47s. I'm hearing that it's up to $20,000, $30,000 for a gun. Where are they getting that money from to buy that kind of gun? Who is supplying them with the guns? How are the guns coming in? Mr. Thorne was speaking about that at the press conference. Why aren't you addressing that as well? The Attorney General, these are things as the citizens, we need to hold them accountable and say, come on, we need you to do an inquiry into where the guns are coming from in the country. We need to get serious with the Prime Minister, get serious with the Attorney General. Where's the Minister of Crime in the Attorney General? Where office? Where is Corey what's the name again? I can't remember his last name. Where is he? What is the source of the crime? Where is it coming from? Are you going to tell me you need that international assistance, policing assistance, to come in here to tell us where the source of the guns are, Madam Prime Minister? Madam Prime Minister, you need to tell us, why is it, according to the statistics, from the time you came into office, crime went up, Madam Prime Minister, by 76%, Madam Prime Minister. Madam Prime Minister, that is reality. That is the numbers, and they're not going to lie. You came into office, and from the time you came into office, crime went up over 70%. Yeah. Crime went up over 70% when you came into office. Why? And it has been climbing. The increase in homicides, these violent crimes, it has been climbing on your watch, Prime Minister Motley. Why? Why? Since 2018. In 2019, guys, in 2019, according to the norma.net, you can go check it out, KNOEMA.net. Homicide by firearms in Barbados increased by 71.92%. Almost 72% increase in 2019. When did this government come into office? When did this government come into office? Wasn't it 2018? Between 2018 and 2019, there was an increase in homicide by firearm. 71.92%. Why? Prime Minister Motley needs to answer that question. Your government needs to answer it. Only you can answer it. What happened? The word on the street, when I talk to the guys, Let me talk to you plain. It wasn't supposed to be my segment, but let me talk to you plain. When I talk to the guys on the street, they say that since this government came into office, crime increased. I said it. There I said it. I said, how do you know? They said, ma'am, the streets know it. The streets were happy when this government was coming into power. Criminal activity grow underneath this government. Reality, truth, numbers. Go and check it for yourself. The platform for data professional investors and organizations. I am reading from that. In 2022, the homicides by firearm went up 94.12% increase under Mayor Motley's administration. I didn't say that. So all of you, the regular, the yard fowls who are going to be ready for me and go and report me on YouTube to get my numbers down. Go ahead and do it, because I'm accustomed. Listen, I can come on here and talk to 30 people. The truth of the matter is crime increased under the Mayor Motley administration, and she needs to come out and tell the people why. Come out and tell the people why. Why did crime increase in 2022 by 94.12%? According to the platform for data professionals, investors, norma.net. And it increased by 71.92% in 2019, 1 year after you came into office, and it has been climbing since. The only time that there was a decrease in crime was when we had COVID and when we had a lockdown. The facts are there. Prime Minister Mayor Motley, the crime has increased under your watch. What is it that is so different with your government? Why is it the word on the streets is that when you are because when this government is in, it is easier to get the guns? You want me to tell you the truth that the boy's saying? You want me to talk the truth on here? Why are the guys saying that it's easier to get the guns under this government? Why is it that when the guys in prison and they heard that this government was coming into power, they were so excited? Why? Mayor Motley, can you investigate, please, the relationship of government to the same organized crime that you are talking about? You said that you are going to get international help to deal with organized crime. Can you ask them to investigate the relationship of government to organized crime? What is the role of government to the increase of guns in this country? The statistics will not lie. 1 year after you came into government, 1 year after you came into government, whatever it is that this government is doing, the reality is that crime increased dramatically under your watch, Madam Prime Minister. So you could come on being forced out by Ralph Thorne today. You come out sitting down in your righteous chair and talking about all the things that Ralph Thorne talked about. You come out and you're talking about them today. But you still haven't answered the question, though. You still have not told us why. Come out and tell us why. What is the relationship between this Barbados government and the gangs in Barbados? Is there a business relationship? Is there a certain ethnic group in this country that the customs show a blind eye to when all kinds of things are coming through? How can little black boys in here, you all want me to talk? How come where little black boys? When I talk to the little guys, I talk to them. They say, Auntie, where are we supposed to get money from to buy those guns? The little man laugh at me. He said, Auntie, you think we can get money to buy those guns? We don't even have the money to rent the guns. So who has the guns? Why you don't start there? If you really serious, Prime Minister, can you start there? Attorney General, can you start right at the top, please? Where the source is at? Where's the source? Why you don't stop pretending? Pretending. Well, you're going to you're gonna deal with organized crime and so organized crime. First thing, explain to the people of Barbados why the crime increased. And I'm telling you, KNOEMA, because those of you who are going to say that I'm making it up, go and check it. Norma.net. Homicides by firearm. 71.92% increase between one government and the next. You got to answer some questions. And until you can answer them questions, we don't want, you can't come to us with nothing, because anything else you're going to come with to us, we know that it is fake and it's phony and it's not real. It ain't going to stop one thing, because you are not committed to get to the root of the problem. Our little black boys are dying off. You need to tell the people, there's a couple things, and I'm going to finish off here, and we will pick this up another night, because I'm not letting up on you, this government. You got to answer that question, why the crime increased by 71.92%. What could go like that? Not even 5%, 71.92% from 2018 to 2019. And nobody's asking you about that. Come and tell us why. What has happened? We want to know, why is it when you got into office in 2018, why were there, according to the police, people who were known to the police that they're trying to lock up? Why were they in Parliament? To support you. Why? They were there to support your government in Parliament. Known criminals. People had their pictures sending out all about. Why known criminals could take up their phone and call you, and the police have to stop down? Now, when you start to answer those questions, and you can come with your proposal on crime. You see how long you took to come out? Because you know very well. You know very well. You can't really say too much. So you took very long to come out. And if Mr. Thorne didn't come out and say something, you would not push out your face. This administration is a failure. You have failed the Barbadian people. You have failed these black boys in this country. They're dying at your hands. Your failed policies. You have failed the people of this country. And I have no fear in saying that. You have failed. And when you are ready to explain to the people why the crime went up 71.92% on your watch, then we can talk. Yes, Kenneth. They were invited to the parliament. Yep. Yep. Folks, we are done for the night. We have very interesting night. I did not have all the guests that were supposed to come on, but we still had a great night. And I want to invite you again to come out to the picnic. I don't know if Dave will put that up again, but we have our picnic on Sunday. So we're going to invite you to come out to the picnic on Sunday and at Bath, St. John. Bring your picnic basket and come out to the picnic. All right. And there is going to be a bus at Independence Square, and the bus is going to get there at 11 o'clock. And you can hop on the bus with your picnic basket 11 o'clock, and you leave at the bus is going to leave at 11:45, take you straight to Bath St. John. Cook up your food, come down with your family, and let's have a good time. You know, we march together, we have our roadside parliament together, and we have some fun. This is because you've asked for it, and it's here. All right, so I'm hoping to have our full complement of our panel back in check and back together on the Sunday night. All right. Thank you, Judy. Thank you guys for watching. Bali says, wish to hear Sherura again. He made so much sense. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Teroni. Teroni says, wonderful and great show, Marcio. And he said, I come into the picnic. Yes. And there we are going to announce to you that we're going to have our roadside parliament and march is going to be next week. I think what we're doing is trying to put it all together in one. All right. So I'm going to put it all together in one. All right. So, folks, I will see you at the picnic. I see you at the picnic. Okay. All right, folks. Good night. And we normally leave with our music, with our sound.
Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. Barbados is too small for me. My pocket full now, you and job they promise me. And a girl like me want power and more money. You cry transparency, but that's a no for me. Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down.
That maths nor English, pretending to be good, pretending to be good, just pretending to be good. Pretending to be good, I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending, and I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
All right, so folks, see you on Sunday. I can't wait to see you all on Sunday at Bath St. John. It's going to be amazing, people. Come out to Bath St. John on Sunday, 12 noon to 6, and then we're going to have show at 7 o'clock. I'm rushing home for the show at 7 o'clock. See you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Love you all. Bye. Lion in Zion. Lion.